Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you with us. I'm Rafael de Albuquerque. I'm product specialist at Mobius. And today we're going to discuss a very important topic about blood tumors. And it's our first webinar in 2025, Mobius and Diatech in Brazil. And we are very glad to have two keynote speakers, Dr. Rossella Bruno. Dr. Rossella is a keynote researcher at University of Pisa, and Tommaso Carlini. Tommaso is export manager at Diatech. Our webinar will be divided to 4 parts. I'm start with a brief introduction about the Diatech in Brazil. Then we're gonna have Tommaso talk about Diatech in the world. After that, we have the new advance in diagnosis of blood tumor with the Dr. Rossella Bruno. And then we're gonna have a few minutes for questions and discuss. So feel free to send the questions on the YouTube that you are watching right now. So we are, as I said, we are Mobius. Mobius is a 100% Brazilian company. We are very proud to be a 100% Brazilian company in the field of molecular biology and genomics. And our goal is make the diagnosis faster and more accurate. So in it, it's a perfect match with Diatech. For that, we brought Diatech to Brazil because Diatech technology is very, very fast, very accurate, and you can have the result in just few hours, couple of hours. You can have the result, and you can do if your routine is tough and you have just a patient one time, you can do that and do the results. So it's very fast, and you can right after the result you can start the treatment of patients. So it's good for physicians, it's good for laboratories, it's good for the patient. So we are very happy to have Diatech in Brazil. And Diatech technology, as I said, is very fast, just a couple of hours, maximum 3 hours from that you have your genetic material, which means DNA or RNA. In 2 or 3 hours, you have the results. So it's very good because of that. So it's a full solution, it's a complete solution with software integrate. So analysis software comes together, and it comes with freeze-dried, which means the lyophilization. Okay, you can just pipette in your material, the DNA of the patient, with positive and negative control, of course, and just a spindle vortex and put on the machine. So, and it's a own machine with a software integrated, and once it's freeze-dried, it's very easy to storage, it's very easy to transportate. So the transportation is not a big deal. It's not necessary to freeze the material once it's freeze-dried, as I said. And it's a complete solution, as I said, it's very fast, and it comes a full solution with the software for analysis. It's a IVD regulatory, so it's very, very accurate, as I said. So once you have your material, it just 10-15 minutes of pipetting, speed out vortex, put on the qPCR machine, and in the cycle it's about 80 and 90 minutes. You can have your result put and analyze on the own software. So it's very good of that. The hands-on time is very fast. The turnaround time is very fast. So you can the physicians and the laboratory can release the results like in 3-4 hours, just extraction your material and then doing these steps. And our portfolio in Brazil is divided into oncohematology portfolio and solid tumors. It's important to say that we have right now 4 of those tests with Anvisa registration, and others are coming. It's in the middle of the process, okay? But we have a very, very important test like NPM1, qualitative and quantitative, IDH1 and 2, PML rara, and others of hemato-oncological tests. And we have in the solid tumors, the hits that we have already Anvisa registration, EGFR, NRAS, BRAF, and KRAS. So, and we have as well a very, very good test for methylation, for epigenetics, MGMT. But today we're gonna talk, as I said, about bladder tumors. We have our keynote high impact researcher for University of Pisa, Dr. Rossella Bruno, and we talk more about FGFR. We have some news from last year about the therapeutic solutions for blood tumors. So it's important to say we have these tests in Brazil. Just easy, just talk to us, talk to Mobius, and we can do a presentation for you. And if it's not FGFR, your target, your goal, we have all this panel, all this portfolio to present you. In Brazil, we are very proud, we are very happy to say we have Diatech tests in every single part of Brazil, every single region, north, northeast, middle west, southeast, and south. So we are present in the 5 regions of Brazil, mostly onco, hemato tests, NPM1, BCR, ABL, PML, RARA, and solid tumors. We have EGFR, BRAF, KRAS, NRAS, MGMT, DPUD, IDH, and diffusion OC, RET-MET. And we are running our clients, laboratories and hospitals in Brazil are running over than 300 tests a month. So it's expanding a lot. We start just a year ago. So, and it's very good to see that technology takes in every part of Brazil. And as I said before, today we are going to talk more about the new therapeutic opportunity for patients with committed of urothelial cancer, and talk more about the FGFR3. Now, we know that bladder cancer is one of the top 10 most common in Brazil. In Brazil and in the world as well. And last year, we had some news from the European agency with approved endafinidib for the patients with urothelial tumors. So, and this alteration on the gene FGFR3 makes sense with this drug. So it's a new therapeutic opportunity for this kind of tumor, this kind of patients. So, and here with the with the Diatech technology, we have the solution to detection the somatic mutations in both FGFR3 and FGFR2 genes. And if you have any question, if you want to know more about our solutions, about Diatech, you can just send me a message. My email is right here below, and we can present. We can do a validation in your lab, in your hospital, and as well as for blood cancer or other that we have in the portfolio presented. And now we're gonna have Tommaso Carlini. Tommaso, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Tommaso is gonna present Diatech in the world. Thank you.
Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you, Raphael, for the introduction, and of course, thank you to our partner Mobius for having us here today and giving us the opportunity to present ourselves. So I'm gonna share a brief presentation of our company, an overview of our company, and how we are present and how we operate in the world. Briefly, Diatech Pharmacogenetics is an Italian company, and we are a European market leader for what concerns precision medicine. We are specialized in the production, research and development of IVD, CE, IVD marked, and IVDR kits, reagents, as Raphael said, in a dry lyophilized format. We provide also instrument and data analysis software. In Europe, we are present in more than 380 customers, and we offer an all-in-one solution which consists in reagents, hardware, so instrumentation and data analysis software, all IVDR fully compliant, which is a very, very important thing for us, which makes us very proud, because since March 2022, so since the IVDR regulation has become effective, we are already fully IVDR certified and compliant. I would like to show you a little bit about the organization of the company. In this slide, you can see our headquarters, our training labs. This is where we do and perform a demonstration and also technical training to our partners. Also, Mobius team came here last year to receive the technical training. We have, of course, all the equipment, all the instruments to perform demos and trainings. We have a team of more than 10 people that are fully dedicated to training, support our customers to do troubleshooting. And of course, we have our own bioinformatic team who develop our data analysis software. About our presence in the world, we work through a network of more than 40 distributors, except from Italy, of course, and Germany, where we go direct. In Germany, we also have a subsidiary company, and also in France, we go direct with our country manager, who is managing the country. Our export department is organized with one channel partner manager and two export managers, me and another colleague. So we manage different countries all over the world. Briefly, would like to briefly present our approach to precision medicine in oncology, why we say that we have a multi-level approach to precision medicine, because our aim is to offer to our customers a complete solution, a simple, fast, and reliable solution to perform the diagnostic testing in molecular oncology. We have two main product lines: the EasyPGX real-time PCR product line that Rafael has presented to you, and also the NGS product line, which is called Myriapod NGS. I don't want to bother you with the main features. Rafael already explained to you that the format is dry, ready to use in 812 strips, pre-aliquoted. So a big advantage is that there is really no danger of contamination during the pipetting step. Once you have the extracted material, so the sample, DNA or RNA, you have just to pipette the extracted sample in the 812 strip, start the run into the thermal cycler, and then download the report and start the data analysis interpretation with our EasyPGX automatic data analysis software. So main advantages: hands-on time very reduced, less than 10 minutes, and reliable result in less than 3 hours. These are also other features of the workflow that Rafael already showed you. And of course, we have a wide portfolio of main biomarkers, all druggable and clinically relevant, because we develop our kits and reagents by following the guidelines of the ESMO, the European Society for Medical Oncology. So all the tests that are offered in our portfolio are only for first level testing, so only related and targeted to diagnostic routine. So not related to research or to second level testing. So thank you very much for your time. We are more than open to questions at the end of the presentation, if you want. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommaso. Thank you for the wonderful presentation you gave to us. And now we're going to start with Dr. Rossella Bruno to talk about the blood tumors. Thank you, Dr. Rossella, to be with us. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Rafael, for the introduction. And I really would like to thank the organizers of this event. It's really an honor and a pleasure for me to be here. And now I'll share my presentation. Okay. So, as anticipated by the title, the focus of my presentation is to discuss about new advances in the molecular diagnosis of bladder tumors. And in detail, I have organized my talk in 4 main parts. First, when we have to plan a molecular analysis, we have to deeply know our molecular targets, and particularly alteration types. Indeed, it is not exactly the same to analyze a single nucleotide variant rather than gene fusions or to evaluate protein expressions. Then we have to be aware of all available techniques and all available biological samples, which are not always the same, and it is not always so easy to find an agreement and to define the most appropriate analytical strategy for each case. In this context, I'll provide you with some examples from the clinical practice, and at the end of my presentation, I hope to be able to stress the crucial role of precision testing for precision medicine, and mainly for its real translation in the clinical practice. We know that bladder tumors are a leading cause of cancer-related death worldwide, and the most common subtype is represented by urothelial carcinoma, accounting for about 90% of cases. In this presentation, I will mainly refer to two specific tumor settings: locally advanced urothelial carcinoma, with a prevalence of 20-25% of cases, and metastatic urothelial carcinoma, accounting for about 5% of cases. For more than 40 years, cisplatin has been the cornerstone of all therapeutic strategies, particularly for metastatic urothelial carcinoma. But recently, therapeutic scenario has been greatly improved, first by the introduction of immune checkpoint inhibitors, and more recently by the approval of the pan-FGFR tyrosine kinase inhibitor erdafitinib. FGFR2 and 3 are currently the only approved molecular targets in urothelial carcinomas. We know that these genes encode for highly conserved transmembrane tyrosine kinase receptors, regulating pathways with a crucial role for cancer growth and development, like, for instance, angiogenesis. To date, in human cancer, several alterations have been reported as responsible for FGFR deregulation, but approved predictive biomarkers that we have to analyze in our routine practice include two specific classes of alterations. The first one comprises FGFR3 activating mutations with a prevalence of 20-25%. And in most cases, in about 70% of cases, few hotspot mutations are detected in urothelial carcinoma within exon 7 and 9 of the gene, encoding for the extracellular and transmembrane domains. What happens with these hotspot mutations is that the wild-type amino acid is replaced by a cysteine, responsible for a ligand-independent activation. The other class of predictive alterations that we have to analyze comprises FGFR2 and 3 oncogenic fusions with a prevalence of 2%. In most cases, in about 80% of cases, two fusion variants are commonly detected in urothelial carcinoma, both involving FGFR3 gene and TACC3 gene, which is the most common fusion partner, mapping closely to FGFR3 on the same chromosome 4. Once identified our targets, so single nucleotide variants and gene fusions, we can have a look at available testing methods. They can be divided in two main groups. The first one refers to single gene or early multiplex methods, allowing the analysis of a limited number of well-known and selected mutations. In this group, there are qualitative real-time PCR and retrotranscription PCR approaches, adequate extremely useful if we have to analyze a few hotspot alterations, few targets in few samples, or if we have to manage urgent cases or cases inadequate for next generation sequencing. Moreover, these techniques are also useful confirmatory methods. In the second group, there are the so-called sequencing and screening techniques, permitting to detect known and unknown alterations in the gene region of interest. In this group, of course, the gold standard is represented by next-generation sequencing, whose advantages are well known, like the possibility to analyze simultaneously different alteration types, from single nucleotide variants to gene fusions, copy number alterations for many samples, thus optimizing starting available biological material. NGS is also the election method if we have to look for potential resistance mechanisms. But coming back
Dr.
to
Rossella, sorry.
Yes.
Can you be a bit little slower?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Just
okay.
to translate. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. I'm sorry. In Italy, we usually speak extremely faster, so I'm sorry. I was saying that coming back again at our molecular targets, we know that for FGFR genes, few hotspot mutations and gene fusions are usually detected in urothelial carcinoma. So, even if, and are detected in the majority of cases. So, even if NGS is the gold standard in precision medicine, real-time PCR approach are a valuable tool too. Just a brief parenthesis about the analysis of FGFR rearrangements. It is not advisable to use fluorescence in situ hybridization because most FGFR rearrangements are intrachromosomal ones, involving genes mapping closely each other on the same chromosome, as for FGFR3 and TACC3. And these types of rearrangements can be missed by commonly used break-apart probes. Looking at real-time PCR assays, we know that overall real-time PCR is highly sensitive, specific, fast. We have to be careful at the reference range because according to nature of multiplex PCR, the number of alterations that we can detect is limited. For what concerns FGFR, to date, several kits validated for the clinical practice are commercially available, each one with a specific spectrum of alterations that it is possible to detect. Some kits include only most common alterations, whereas other kits include both most common alterations and also less common ones, like, for instance, alterations within FGFR3 exon 14 encoding for the kinase domain, whose role is still under investigation that may have an impact on therapy response. In relation to next generation sequencing, we know that when we refer to NGS, we do not refer to a single entity, but to several possible approaches that can be differentiated according to panel type and size, starting material, DNA or RNA, and the chemistries used for both target enrichment and the chemistry of sequencing. Usually in precision medicine, targeted panels are employed, so the analysis is limited to gene of interest. And these panels can be small, up to 10, 20 genes, medium, 50, 100 genes, or comprehensive, up to 500 genes. What is important is to be able to cover all clinically relevant gene alterations. We are aware that panel selection usually depends on each laboratory expertise, resources, and equipment. And we have to be able not only to cover all clinically relevant gene alterations, but to do this in the most cost-effective manners. Another aspect to consider is that different NGS approaches can lead to different results. Think about the analysis of gene fusions. It is possible to analyze gene fusion using both DNA or RNA-based panels. In the first case, working on DNA, we are performing an indirect evaluation of gene fusions without information about its real transcription. In the second case, working with RNA-based panel, we directly look for fusion transcripts in our samples. Of course, we know that to handle RNA is more difficult and can be extremely challenging, particularly when working with old archival specimens. Another important aspect is related to chemistries of target enrichment. Indeed, if we use a classical amplicon-based approach, the analysis is limited to to the detection of known fusion partners of genes of interest, known fusion partners included in the panel design, whereas using hybrid capture or anchored multiplex PCR, it is possible to detect both known and unknown fusion variants of a gene of interest. What I would like to underline is that each approach has its own pros and cons. It is essential to be aware of all these aspects before starting our molecular test in order to better interpret the results and in order to provide clinicians with a complete clinical report. Next generation sequencing requires a limited input material, but it is also true that it requires a good quality input material. And this means that all phases and all steps of the whole workflow should be carefully checked and standardized, with some phases impacting more than other on the success or unsuccess of molecular analysis. This is true also for other molecular tests and molecular methodologies. If we look at main causes of unsuccessful molecular tests, in the first place of the podium, there is the pre-analytical phase. It is important to underline that molecular analysis starts with sampling, and all subsequent steps like transportation, processing, strongly impact on final results. Think about fixation, formalin fixation. If we do not check time and type of fixation, we can have a high grade of nucleic acid fragmentation, which is the major cause of NGS failure. Another important aspect is sample selection performed by pathologists for the molecular test. We need a sample that has to be representative of the tumor with a good percentage of tumor cells. In the second place of the podium, there is the post-analytical phase. And so here I'm referring to bioinformatic analysis, and I would like to stress the importance of validated analytical software because it really help us in our clinical practice. And it is not always so easy to interpret some variants like low frequent ones. We have always to correlate our results with the percentage of tumor cells in our samples. And of course, we have to be careful also on our clinical report. We have to be able to report our variants in a clear manner in order to help clinicians to translate our results in the clinical practice. In the third place of the podium, there is the analytical phase. Fortunately, technological advances strongly support us. To date, we can rely on highly automatized systems, even if some aspects still need to be improved, like, for instance, RNA testing, because as I have already said, working with RNA is not always so easy. After this brief introduction, I would like to discuss with you a clinical case from our routine practice. This is the case of a 70-year-old man with a locally advanced urothelial carcinoma. FGFR testing was requested. After pathological revision, a 3-year-old formalin-fixed paraffin-embedded macroblock was selected as the most representative tumor specimen, with 40% of neoplastic cells. We performed tissue enrichment by manual macrodissection, and the nucleic acids were purified by using an automatized system. Then DNA and RNA quality and quantity were evaluated by using 2 distinct real-time PCR assays. And as you can see, both DNA and RNA had high fragmentation levels. So DNA and RNA were not adequate for next generation sequencing analysis. How can we test cases like these? In our routine practice, we usually used different types of next generation sequencing panels. Two small panels, one DNA and another one RNA based, including only approved predictive biomarkers across solid tumors, and a medium-sized panel, including 50 genes, permitting the analysis not only of approved biomarkers, but also the analysis of oncosuppressors like TP53 or other genes like STK11 that can impact therapy response and prognosis, and permitting also to evaluate alteration types like copy number variations or microsatellite instability. But if samples is not adequate for next generation sequencing for these tests, we can rely on a real-time PCR assay. Indeed, specifically in relation to FGFR testing, we have acquired an FGFR RT-PCR assay permitting to detect common FGFR3 single nucleotide variants and most common FGFR3 and 2 fusion variants. Coming back to our clinical case, it was not adequate for next generation sequencing, but it was adequate for RT-PCR assay. And in this case, a predictive alteration was detected within exon 7 of FGFR3 gene. So patients was potentially eligible for treatment with tyrosine kinase, with approved tyrosine kinase inhibitor. This case underlines the importance of orthogonal methods. And as a matter of fact, in our practice, we daily experience how orthogonal methods like RT-PCR assays are crucial to solve challenging cases. Here I have reported the data related to FGFR testing in a consecutive series of locally advanced and metastatic urothelial carcinoma. In this preliminary pilot study, 40 cases of locally advanced and metastatic urothelial carcinomas were considered. 9 out of 40 cases were excluded from the test because they had a low percentage of tumor cells, lower than 10%. Whereas 11 cases were standard FFPE blocks. 3 cases had inadequate RNA for NGS, but adequate for RT-PCR, whereas 20 cases were FFPE macrosections. 3 cases had inadequate RNA for all available tests at our laboratory, whereas, interestingly, 16 cases had inadequate RNA for next-generation sequencing, but adequate for RT-PCR. So, by combining RT-PCR and NGS according to each sample characteristics, we managed to successfully analyze for both mutations and fusions 87% of cases. And this is a good percentage considering that I'm referring to samples with a 1 to 3 year storage time. In our study population, no gene fusions were detected according to low prevalence of this alteration type and also to the relatively small number of analyzed samples. But we found 7 cases with FGFR3 mutations in line with literature data. Moreover, some cases were analyzed by both NGS and RT-PCR, and always we obtained coherent results. So, in conclusion, FGFR2 and 3 are important predictive targets are important molecular targets in urothelial carcinoma. Predictive alterations include both gene mutations and gene fusions, so we have to be able to handle both DNA and RNA. We know that NGS is the gold standard, but we are aware that a laboratory can't rely only on one technology because not all samples are the same. And particularly for FGFR testing, where a limited number of hotspot alterations have to be tested, real-time PCR is a valuable approach too. Moreover, real-time PCR is crucial if we have samples not adequate for next-generation sequencing or for urgent cases, because as we have already heard, the analysis is extremely fast. Of course, we have to work and try to optimize the pre-analytical phase of urothelial carcinoma, as we have already done in the past for other cancers like, for instance, lung cancer. But to date, we are still asked to test all the archival samples, and we have to define the best analytical strategy according to each single sample characteristics. To do this, it is essential to have a strong and a clear communication and cooperation and collaboration between all professional figures involved in patients management, from clinicians to pathologists to molecular biologists. And thank you for your kind attention, and I'm waiting for your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Rossella. Very good presentation. Thank you. Very good data. It's important. We know that NGS is not enough, and RT-PCR as well. So it's a combined thing, right? So it's very good. So we have some questions. I think the first one is to Tommaso. How does freeze-dried reagent technology impact the efficiency and the reliability of laboratory tests?
Thank you for the question. As I was saying during the introduction, of course, the dry lyophilized pre-aliquoted format of the A12 strips helps a lot the operator in the lab to avoid any kind of error that may occur or contamination that may happen during the preparation of the mix, because as you may know, the classic liquid format of reagents can cause some contamination, some errors during the preparation. So by having a ready-to-use tool, we can say that you just have to add your extracted sample, helps a lot to save time, of course, to reduce the hands-on time, and of course helps a lot the reliability of the test. Of course, as you were saying, Raphael, also the storage and the transportation is more efficient because you do not have to use dry ice during transportation. So it also cost effective in this way. And also you don't need to store the reagent at -20 in the fridge until you open the envelope. But at the first step, it helps a lot to avoid all these little things, could be mistakes, or there's no needing to do ulterior steps, I would say. I hope to have answered in a good way the question.
Yes, very good. Thank you, Tommaso. The second question is, what's the clinical relevance of FGFR gene mutation for personalized therapy in bladder cancer? Dr. Rossella, can you help us? Yeah.
FGFR 3 gene mutations and FGFR2 and 3 gene fusions are predictive biomarkers of response to erdafitinib, to kinase inhibitors, so they can candidate patients to a biological treatment rather than standard chemotherapy.
Sure. I think the third question is, the complement of that one was the importance of the identify biomarker in the diagnosis and the treatment of bladder cancer. If you want to say anything else, feel free, but yeah.
Erdafitinib was approved, at least by FDA and EMA, as FGFR inhibitor for patients harboring predictive activating alterations within FGFR2 and 3 genes. I'm referring to mainly to metastatic urothelial carcinomas progressing after first lines of treatment. So their detection is crucial because it has been reported an important improvement in terms of overall survival.
That's cool, yeah. So the fourth question is, how has the molecular diagnosis of bladder cancer evolved in Europe, and what the trends can we expect in Latin America? You can start, please, and I can complement, yeah, of course. Thank you.
So we can say that molecular diagnosis of bladder cancer is a relatively new entry in the context of precision medicine, and it is mainly related, and to date it is limited to the analysis of FGFR2 and 3, because only approved predictive biomarkers are activating alterations within FGFR2 and 3 genes. But I guess that in the future, molecular diagnosis of bladder cancers will evolve more, particularly because the more we test, the more we find, and so this is what I think will happen in the future.
What we have, yeah, exactly. I think Latin America is quite the same right now. We can see in the tunnel molecular biology improve, and more happens in other parts of Latin America, but still it's present to the future. But yeah, of course, yeah, quite same. The question 5, it's what the challenge currently facing the molecular diagnosis of bladder cancer, and how can new advances overcome them? I think it's just a complementation, but yeah.
Yes, so to date, we are often asked to analyze FGFR alterations on old archival specimens. It is not always so easy to obtain a good quality DNA or RNA from old archival samples. Moreover, there is another aspect that we have to consider. Since a few years ago, the only purpose of in bladder cancer, when we prepared formalin-fixed, paraffin-embedded blocks and specimens, was the histopathological diagnosis. So some samples were not treated well, were not formalin fixed according to standard procedures for molecular biology, because the goal was another one, was histopathological diagnosis. So in my opinion, this is one of the major challenge. Fortunately, we have more than one technique. So, as I have shown with our preliminary study on 40 cases, by combining NGS and RT-PCR, fortunately, we managed to obtain reliable results, the result in most cases. We have to start working and trying to optimize pre-analytical phase also of bladder tumors.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Rossella again. And our question 6, I think, yeah. How does the detection of mutation in the FGFR gene influence therapeutic decision of patient with bladder cancer?
Because the presence of activating predictive alterations within FGFR gene make patients eligible for treatment with kinase inhibitors.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we have here someone. Rossella's presentation was very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And question 7, how does the kit work and how are it been advantage over other molecular diagnosis approach? Tommaso, please.
So the kit is DNA and RNA based. So starting material are both DNA and RNA to detect mutation. Of course, FGFR gene mutation in the case of DNA. We detect up to 13 DNA mutation for FGFR gene, and with RNA starting material, we can detect FGFR2 and FGFR3 fusion. So it's a complete detection kit, and the main advantages, as I said before, are of course that the hands-on time is very reduced and it's very simple and easy to use. So at the end of the day, the lab has the possibility to give the result and of course the treatment to the patient in the same day of the analysis.
Yeah,
I don't know if Dr. Bruno would like to add something more technical.
I agree. The kit works really well. It is extremely fast, and I don't know if you usually have to manage to. I don't know how your oncologists are, but our clinicians are extremely patient. They would like to have the results as soon as possible, and particularly for urgent cases, kits like these are really useful because in a couple of hours we are able to provide them with reliable results.
Yeah. Thank you both. Yeah, it's a very, very fast and accurate. Yeah. Question 8. Only alterations in the FGFR gene can be detected by fish?
No, can't be detected by fish alterations because I would like to specify that fluorescence in situ hybridization, which is a standard single test commonly used in molecular pathology lab, it can be used to detect ROS1 fusion rather than ALK. It is not so good for FGFR gene fusions because most fusions happen between the genes mapping closely on the same chromosome. And these types of rearrangements can be missed by fluorescence in situ hybridization. So if you have to use a single gene test, real-time PCR is better.
Mm-hmm.
It is not advisable to use a fish fluorescence in situ hybridization at all.
All right. Yeah, that's cool. Question 9. Was the patient profile with the highest incidence of bladder cancer?
I don't profile.
Profile in the sense, what kind of people with had the bladder cancer?
Mainly men, mainly ancient men, and there are also some risk factors like smoke and
yeah, like other type of
like
cancer.
others,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And I think the final question, question 10. I think you mentioned on your presentation, but just, I mean, a complementation. What are the advantages of the test compared to the NGS method? I don't know, Tommaso also want to talk about that, and feel free.
What I could add is that, of course, real-time PCR method, like the EasyPGX that we are speaking about, is way faster to obtain the result than waiting for next generation sequencing. As we were saying, in less than 3 hours, you will have the result. Next generation sequencing is a multiplex analysis, so the result comes. You need more time to have the result, but I would like to leave to Dr. Bruno the comments.
So I would like to specify that overall there isn't a technique which is better than another one at all, because each technique, each method has its own pros and cons. And we have always to discuss these aspects in relation to sample types, as I have shown, but also in relation to targets that we have to test, number of targets. So if we refer to bladder cancer, to date, predictive alterations are few, and it is possible to analyze them by RT-PCR, saving time, and this is okay. But if you ask me the same question in relation to lung cancer, for instance, NGS is better. NGS is the gold standard because we have different types and many predictive approved biomarkers, and it is not possible to analyze all of them by real-time PCR assay. So we have always to discuss techniques and their advantages or disadvantages in relation to the clinical and practical context where we have to use them.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Rossella. Another comment. Congratulations, Rossella. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Again. Thank you, Tommaso. So I think that's it. We have had a lot of material. I think we have another question. Tommaso, can you tell us the quantity and the quality of the sample to use on the kit?
That we indicate 80 nanogram per sample, per starting material for both RNA and DNA. But also in this case, I would like to ask for Dr. Bruno support to go more in depth with the technical part.
Yes, we are always referring to EasyPGX, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So we usually for DNA use low to 10 nanogram total for assay, but also less than nanogram. We usually normalize our samples to 2 nanogram microliters, whereas for RNA, we use a total volume of 25 microliter for assay, and our RNA is usually concentrated 10 nanograms for microliters, because each laboratory then optimize the protocol according to specific samples. Samples are not always the same. We usually work with samples coming from external laboratories, and according to pre-analytics, there are some samples that you can analyze using less material, less starting materials, whereas other samples that had a different pre-analytical step and that have a high fragmentation levels require a higher input material. But usually we use about 2 nanogram microliter in 25 microliters of final volume for DNA. So 50 nanogram DNA totally, and 10 nanogram microliters for RNA in 25 microliters of final volume, so 250 if available, but we analyzed also samples with a lower input material, and with RT-PCR we rarely have problems.
Cool, that's good, yeah.
Whereas with NGS, it is more difficult.
Yeah, to reach, right? Yeah. I think we don't have any other questions, right? So that's it. I would like to thank you, Dr. Rossella Bruno. It's a pleasure to have you with us, as well as Tommaso. It was very good presentation. And I would like also to thank you, our audience, with keeping with us by YouTube and the other link. And I hope see you soon again with other discussions like that, other topic, of course. Thank you a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.